Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connections for Life. I'm Ted Pete.
Hey, you guys! I'm Chad Kuba.
All right.
Here at the boat. We're just going to let the treasure float away.
Like I'm Joe Surratt. Hey, real quick, guys, when you just hit the record button,
did you hear that?
Did you?
That was the first.
Something popped up on your screen,
this
right?
Meeting is
I thought it was recorded. Just
me.
Yeah, I was like, anyways, that was weird. Zoom's changing things on us without notice.
They probably did send notice to us, but you don't check your email.
Very true.
All fair points.
All
very
fair points, right? Points. Yes.
So what happened this weekend? Let's start with Ted.
Oh, that we just saw
you
that.
You have visual cues.
I got props.
Another phone down, huh?
Another phone down in the Pete household.
Another one bites the dust, and that was a new one too.
That was brand new, yeah.
And consequently, Apple stock is up.
I'm telling you, I actually got to have some fun though. No, I went down to Jersey to actually the guy my son's named after. He's my daughter's godfather, and my son is named after him. Nick Sarnatora. He's a federal customs agent, and he lives down in right on the other side of the river from New York City because he works at the World Trade Center. So him and I went down
Jersey City or Newark or somewhere.
No, he probably lives in Weehawken.
He lives in Weehawken.
Exactly. The only nice part that's across the river.
I used to have buddies that lived in Weehawken. It was a great place.
Oh, it's great. So I got down there, and him and I went for like a 4-mile run along the river. It was beautiful. And then we went and did a dynasty football draft. I'm really happy I got the players I wanted. And then hung out, played some cornhole, and came home yesterday.
I have what maybe it's a stupid question, but what's a dynasty football draft? It's not even near football season, right?
Okay, so it's like fantasy football, right?
Don't take long, or we're gonna meet.
You have 4 seconds.
Really, it's fantasy football. So you draft your team one time, right? And then you keep your players every year, and you do just a rookie draft every year instead of
if your guys get hurt or retired, you get to replace them.
No, you get to replace them in the rookie draft, or there's free agents you can pick up throughout the season. But
so you were in Jersey. So my buddy who lives, actually, I don't know where he lives. I think he lives in Jersey. I can't remember which friend sent it, but he sent me a meme last week. It said, "Fun things to do in New Jersey. Number 1." It was only one. Leave. That's all it said. Sorry, that cracked me up.
That's
anyways.
Awesome. What about you, Joe? What'd you do? Soccer.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know, even like the haze. Oh yeah. Friday we won. What the heck was the score? I don't even remember. We won. And then Saturday, Lila and Macy's team lost by 1. It was 3-2. So
losers.
Yeah, they didn't have a great game. Callie puked afterwards in the car. Like, it was just
Did you lose your mind?
She wasn't in my car. I was totally
Would
fine.
You have lost your mind?
Nah, I mean, it's just puke, whatever. But no, so it was so hot on Friday, and she went out there and ran a little behind off and ended up getting sick for a couple hours, but she's okay. So
you do have to say though, as they get older, that puke isn't like the puke when they were like little and 1 and 2. It's like actual like real human throw up.
Well, she went to daycare like right after school and ate ice cream. And then went out and
that's a pregame meal. That's a really good pregame.
And everybody was perplexed about what happened to her. I'm like,
she's got dairy swishing around her belly while it's
90 degrees. Yeah, and she's huffing down the field. So yeah, well, she made it. She made it through. So we're good.
You had a nice milestone too. You said your family just got one more cell phone added to your bill. Yeah.
Yes, and Macy got her new birthday present. Macy's birthday is June 2nd. But she got her early birthday present, so she's 10 and she's got a phone.
What are the odds you take it from her before her birthday?
Macy's pretty good. The best part about the whole thing is Callie. Very first question was like, "When am I getting a phone?"
I could see that coming from a mile away.
And I was like, "Probably 3 years." And she was like, "What?" And I was like,
"She's already angling."
So she'll probably get one next year at this point.
She'll have one next week. Next week.
Well, it's funny because she gets all the hand-me-down iPad.
I was just gonna say, now here's your new iPod. Your version
she has like 2 iPads, 4 iPods. Like
she was smart. She'd trade them in and trade up to a phone.
Maybe she should give them to Ted.
iPhone 12 Pro.
Maybe Ted could use one.
Can I have some of your leftover electronics, Joe, please?
Yeah, right. Anyways, that was it. What about you, Coos? What'd you do? treasure hunting apparently.
I actually didn't do a whole lot. Lindsay ended up going up to Gilmore and spent the night in a hotel up there. It was Logan's prom, junior prom. He won prom king.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he takes away that his best friend was the queen.
I think it was a little rigged.
Yeah, I felt like that was a little rigged. However, it is his in 2 full years of high school. He because last year was kind of in 2 different ones. He has some medals in every year, so I give him credit for that.
Good for him.
But yeah, other than that, Lindsay and I went to this. We actually had like a date day yesterday, which was fun, and we went to this place called Restoration Hardware, which has a restaurant on the roof. It was pretty cool.
So what did you do while she was on her date?
What'd you say?
What'd you do while she was on her date?
You mean on Saturday night?
No,
I watched TV.
No, what'd you do?
Oh, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday.
Well, Lindsay was on her date.
I watched TV.
Anyways,
that's great.
Enough about us.
Who's coming on the show today for us?
We have Mr. Ric Row, who I've known for probably 15 years. Rick started out with Exxon Mobil. I think it was just Exxon then, or just Mobil. He'll tell us, but it wasn't Exxon Mobil together yet. But he also spent, the most interesting part is he spent about almost 23 years at Baltimore Gas, and he pretty much started their integrity management group, which is interesting because the word integrity and management and all that stuff has come up a lot, especially in the last 2 weeks. We have the guy Chris from TRC, who we're going to actually next week is also something to do with integrity management. So
his name's Mike, but.
Oh yeah, it is Mike. Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Hey,
I'm glad to see
a lot of things going on. I'm gonna go now.
Right.
But after Rick retired from Baltimore Gas, he spent some time at Dominion Energy, also Energy Transfer, and finished his career before retiring to do all things at his rental properties from Corpro. So
he's also
let's get Rick going.
Fact about Rick is he's like almost neighbors with Turno family in State College. So
yeah, Rick's a cool guy. He's so smart, and it's
crazy.
I was half joking, but I'm kind of serious. I think we should see if we can get like Rick to record like a 5-minute section every week, and we can put it on like Rick Talk or something.
I agree.
Replace Joe's gas facts with it.
Yeah, totally. I'd be fine with that.
I'm not.
Let's do that. Let's do that today.
All right. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Mr. Ric Row. Hello, Rick. Welcome to Connections for Life.
Thank you, Ted. Nice to be here.
How are you, Rick?
How are you? Just relegated to the basement, right?
They still haven't let you upstairs since you presented on the expo, huh?
Still living down there, are you?
Yep.
3 square meals a day.
So Rick, we'll I say this I think everyone. We'll start you where we start everybody else. How did you end up being in the natural gas industry, and how did you get your start?
Well, I wanted to be a cowboy, but growing up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a lot of shut doors right there. I had some real good jobs in high school, and my mom said, you got to think about what you can do after high school because you're not going to live here. And she gave me
and I don't think cowboy was paying for you to get out either.
That's right. One of my jobs in high school, one was a cook in a steakhouse, which has a certain amount of skills to it. The other one I worked in a plant X-raying jet engine parts. That was a pretty cool job for a high school kid.
Especially that was cooking a cheeseburger the week before.
Yeah, that's right. So I X-ray jet engine parts during the afternoon, and then I go over to the steakhouse and cook steaks at night. I was rolling for a senior high school. I was rolling in cash. But jet engines, the first and second stages of the real workhorse part, the turbine part, those blades are hollow. So you have to X-ray them to make sure those openings are not obstructed. So air can pass through the blade. You don't want the blades to melt mid-flight when you power up. Anyways, so
wait a minute. Stop.
No, don't go anyways. Yeah, that was interesting.
Hey, and if I go off on a tangent, just pull me back with something.
That's okay. I just have a question about this. So I'm to believe that when you were a senior in high school, the responsibility of checking to see if a jet engine worked was yours. So
I only exposed the film. I only took the actual radiographic. I wasn't the inspector.
Okay. I was a little concerned. I was going to need the name of that plant, the location, and
multitude of other.
Not coincidentally, they're out of business.
Okay. I wonder why.
Anyway, so at the time, my older sister was dating a guy from Penn State who was a petroleum engineer. I didn't even know that such things existed. But my mom said, hey, petroleum engineers make a lot of money coming out of college. Why don't you try? Or why don't you go up and be a petroleum engineer?
Yeah.
I'm
She said try. She said try. You know.
Yeah, because my sister, who is a lot smarter than I am, I'm serious. My sister went for architectural engineering and like lasted 2 semesters or 2 terms at the time, and switched over to accounting. So they said, yeah, go try to be a petroleum engineer. And as a aside, they said, watch this. This is going to be fun. But I did all right. I did fine. And coming out of 4 years, I was anxious to get a job. Not sure that was the greatest idea, but I was anxious to get a job. And Exxon offered me a job. So I went to work in Corpus Christi, Texas, as a cased hole wellbore engineer, where we did initial completions and recompletes and stimulation, fracturing, and then eventually plug and abandonment. So that's where I got my start in the energy industry.
Well, I know that you've had a few organizations that you've worked with since working with Exxon. You want to talk about kind of the maturation of your career? And
yeah, we worked, right. We were living in Texas, and Texas is pretty cool. I kind of like Texas. But when we had the first grandchild, my wife and I had the first grandchild on both sides of our family. And once that happened, then the pressure was on to move closer to family back in the mid-Atlantic. And that was before the Marcellus Shale, anybody even thought of the Marcellus Shale. So I went back and got a second degree in mechanical engineering, just a BS in mechanical engineering, and landed a job pretty much where I left Exxon in terms of salary and benefits for Baltimore Gas and Electric. I worked for Baltimore Gas and Electric on the gas distribution side.
Stupid question, Rick. Just a dumb question. That petroleum engineering degree couldn't lend you into Baltimore Gas. Did you go back for the mechanical degree? Like, I obviously went on your own accord, but did you need that to get a job at Baltimore?
I don't know, but it was I'm one of the few people you're ever going to meet that'll say, I enjoy being a student more than I enjoy being an employee. And that's true. So going back to school for a year was no heartache for me. I kind of enjoyed it. And it was quite, I don't want to say easy, but it's a lot more fun the second time through when you're going for a second BS degree. So
how old were you then, Rick?
I was 28.
Wow. So you were probably really good at school then. I always say if I went back to school now, I'd be really good at it.
Yeah, you probably would. Because
I was terrible at it then, but
you kind of learn the process of solving an engineering problem, and it can go across any engineering discipline. You kind of know the process of what it takes, and I did quite well. Interestingly, before we move on, and again, if I go down a tangent too far, just
well, you know.
Baltimore Gas and Electric, little known fact, Baltimore Gas and Electric is the oldest gas company in North America.
we've talked about that on the show in the past.
Twice.
Yeah.
That's come up twice in the last 56 weeks.
Yeah, if you watch the show, you know.
Thanks, Rick.
I
Thanks for
watched
being
some shows. I didn't watch them all. There's a lot of stuff out on the internet I got to explore.
Yeah, I'm a French model.
I know we're not at the top of the list either. I get that. That's fine.
But anyways, interesting about being a light company, which is what they started as, light company, and stop me if this is all repetitious to you, but the fuel came from the byproduct of making coal tar to coat the bottoms of ships in England. That's where it started from. They wanted a good coating for the bottom of seagoing vessels for wooden ships. And somebody realized that the retort gas coming off the reaction of making this stuff was flammable. So they started a lighting company based on that flammable gas. Rembrandt Peale, did you talk about Rembrandt Peale?
I did.
He did.
Rembrandt
You're
Peale,
so happy right now. You're making.
I am.
Look at him.
lit his gallery on Holiday Street with
Art gallery.
town gas.
And they still use coal tar too as a coating,
They
which
still
is
use
pretty
coal tar.
wild as well.
They still use coal tar. The interesting thing about town gas, and this kind of trickles through society even now, there's a huge component of carbon monoxide in town gas for lighting. When you say huge component, what are you talking about? Immediately lethal or dangerous to health and life is 1,200 parts per million of carbon monoxide. Town gas has about 100,000 to 250,000 parts per million of carbon monoxide. And you see that left over of references to people putting their head in the oven to kill themselves. If 0.12% can kill you,
Wow.
10 to 25% does it really quickly. And you'll still see references, it's mostly in old movies, but in some relatively modern movies, of people sticking their head in the oven or breathing gas out of the oven to kill themselves. Doesn't work anymore because there is no carbon monoxide in that thing. That started to go away around World War II. But I grew up with I Love Lucy shows, and Lucy was always sticking her head in the oven to kill herself because Desi wouldn't let her sing in the club or anything, but so she killed herself in the oven. But anyways, and at BG&E you would still see references to that of houses blowing up because the old man lost his job. He wanted to kill himself, natural gas. The house fills with methane. Wifey comes home. He wants to be long dead by then. He's not. He fell asleep. She turns on a light switch upstairs and blows the house apart. That still happens.
Great. Never knew that.
Yeah. Anyways, so
Anyways,
after BG&E, I went to work at Dominion for a couple of years. BG has pipeline contracts and storage contracts with Dominion, so I knew how they dispatch their storage, dispatch transmission. I knew a good bit about the company, and it was a natural fit to move there after being in pipeline integrity at Baltimore Gas and Electric. And I was in Dominion for about 2 years, and the guy who I replaced at Dominion contacted me and said, "Hey, I need somebody to work the Marcellus Shale up in Williamsport. Why don't you come on up?" And I got a.
And you got to spend time with Mr. Brian Savage.
that's where I met you. We went to
Yeah,
some
that is where you met
restaurant.
him.
That's right, Brian Savage. That's where I met Brian Savage. But the energy companies routinely respond to high energy prices and drill like crazy. The capital money just starts flooding in, and as you know, you can't store gas very easily. So when everybody's saturated the Marcellus Shale, the price of gas drops to nothing, which is natural gas, which is good for the consumer, but bad for the companies that are trying to make money off of it. So I was a casualty of that price tank. And eventually, well, not eventually, within 3 months, I was working for CorPro down outside Philadelphia because I had a corrosion background or a cathodic protection background from my work in pipeline integrity at Baltimore Gas.
That was going to be my next question, Rick. I know you spent what were you, almost 23 years, I think, in Baltimore?
Yep, that's right.
What did you, when you started there, were you in engineering? How did you, I think you ended in integrity, right?
That's right.
You didn't start it. Integrity probably didn't even exist.
Integrity didn't exist.
To work
No.
there.
There's no such thing as integrity.
I mean, not that it's only 20 years ago. I don't mean to age you that long, but just put into perspective, when we talk about pipeline integrity, that's probably a recent 10 to 15 year term.
Yeah, 2003, 2004 was like the start of the pipeline integrity ruling, right around that time. I had been at Baltimore Gas and Electric, I had been in metering and just some catch-all budgetary jobs, some plant. I spent a long time
really using those two engineering degrees.
That's right. That's exactly right. I was in planning a good bit of the time, and contract planning, where we made sure we have enough assets to cover a winter's dispatch or a season's dispatch, and be able to meet the demands on the system. It's more complicated than it sounds. Because
I have no idea what you're talking about, so no, it's not.
Okay. There are different levels, and this goes through all of life. There are different levels of flexibility. The least flexible asset is a firm transportation supply contract where a company buys so many 100,000 cubic feet per day of delivery service to their city gate. And they pay a demand charge and they pay a commodity charge for all they schedule. All right. So that's just what you would call a baseline load. All right. Let's say let's say Baltimore, the area of Baltimore expects to burn, I'm just going to throw out an energy number that I'm used to in my head, 250,000 decatherms that day. So they'll schedule
Delivery of.
if they have firm transportation, they can schedule 250,000 decatherms on that pipe to be delivered. But they can't, they never guess the exact right amount. So there are other assets that swing, they're swing assets. The next asset is market area storage. And those are the big storage fields in Western Pennsylvania and Ohio and West Virginia that are primarily used for their no notice capability. And by no notice, if Baltimore Gas and Electric expects to burn 250,000 decatherms that day, but really ends up burning 300,000 decatherms that day, and 50,000 came out of storage instantaneously. At the end of the day, 50,000 comes out of storage.
That's absolutely amazing. But is that something that you do every day, Rick? Like, I mean, or are you just over like?
Yeah, the controllers, the gas controllers, and at the time there were 3 guys that sat in a control room, and they'd all day long look at weather reports and days like that through history. They say, okay, I think we're going to end up burning, 250,000, and they keep adjusting the flow rate. They keep adjusting the flow on the system coming through the gate to make sure.
Unbelievable. I never think that's how that happened. As crazy as that sounds, I have no idea.
Hey Rick, consequently,
like, what if my mouth is hanging open at times watching it? Like, I'm serious because I'm like, I'm only 2.5 years into this, almost going on 3 years here, Rick, and it's like, it's honestly like mind-boggling to like, all right, I feel like I know something, and I'm getting pretty good at knowledge on it and this kind of stuff, and you're just like, yeah, I didn't know any of that existed or took place or.
So Rick, I have a question. Consequently, like if obviously we just talked about if they burn more, but say they schedule 250 decatherms, is that what you said?
Yeah,
and 250,000, I think you said. And what if they only burn 200? Does that immediately go the other way?
There are injection rights and there are withdrawal rights in all these big storage fields, and usually you're paying the most for no notice injection and withdrawal rights. So if they only burn 200,000, but they thought they were going to burn 250,000, then they'd have an instantaneous injection at the end of the day of 50,000 decatherms, and their inventory would go up.
Now here's my next question. So day one's over with, going into day 2, they go, we're going to burn 200,000 again. Do they immediately take that extra 50,000 out of that storage first before how does that work?
It's a paper play, right? Really. The operators, the Dominions and the Columbias of the world, they're actually dispatching storage, and
all the time.
On a day Baltimore Gas and Electric is taking a withdrawal, they may be net injecting into the field.
Right, I got
it. But on paper, on our account, our inventory reflects.
So basically, it doesn't matter because it's not like it's their gas or their gas; it's just the gas. So they just take it and you bill me for this, or I get.
That's right, and it's an accounting maneuver. That's all it is. The third piece of the puzzle, we talked about market area storage and baseline firm transportation. The third major piece is online assets or on system assets, and these are the real big peaking units that flow a whole bunch of gas very quickly. If you drive on 95, and I'll bet you have too, Chad, or drive on 95 through Baltimore, right before you get through the McHenry Tunnel going north.
Mm-hmm.
There, and you'll see them on Verizon. I think it's a Verizon commercial. It shows 3 tanks. One is a horse on it, one is a crab.
It's by the cruise ship terminal.
That's right.
Yeah, I know exactly what it is.
They're on the north side. Those are LNG tanks, and those LNG is liquefied natural gas, and that can pump a whole bunch of gas onto the system very quickly. Those 3 tanks contain 1 billion cubic feet of gas in liquid form.
Wow.
And they can drain those tanks in 3 days at full volume. They could empty those tanks in 3 days. That's the capacity to empty those tanks. They also have Baltimore Gas and Electric also has a propane storage cavern up north of the city, where they withdraw propane, mix it with air, so it starts to look like natural gas in the line, because propane's not natural gas, but they mix it with air to make it look like natural gas, and they mix it in with the fuel, with the natural gas stream, and that is all to put a whole bunch of gas onto the system quickly if you have a very, very cold day.
That's crazy.
And the same thing happens on the electric side too. You have
We don't care about that. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
No, that's wild.
Texas does. That's who cares about Texas. Yeah, you have big nuke plants, Peach Bottom and Calvert Cliffs. They come on and they stay on for months, years at a time. Then you have other coal-fired plants or oil-fired plants that can come on for a couple days, and then you have peaking plants. They come on very quickly on the like a summer day where it's 110 degrees at 6 o'clock in the evening. You'll have peaking plants that come on and run for a few hours, but they're very expensive and they're just made for shaving the peaks off.
It's crazy. Well, I mean, we could probably talk about this forever because
Yeah, I can. It's amazing.
More questions. But I guess the question I have for me, you've obviously worked in a lot of different areas. You worked for, Exxon and then transmission, midstream distribution, kind of everything and all and everything in between. Just have to ask, what was your favorite? What's your favorite job?
I like my favorite thing I liked the best was pipeline integrity. Working for Baltimore Gas and Electric.
Okay.
And that's because I tend to do a routine well. I like a routine, and the baseline assessment of pipeline integrity, you had a routine that you had to follow and very specific rules that you had to follow. Some were silly, some weren't. And also that allowed me, or working for pipeline integrity, introduced me to corrosion, which I think is one of the most overlooked fields, one of the simplest and overlooked fields ever. I think less people know about corrosion than I ever would have expected. And if you look at NACE literature, corrosion costs like 3% of the gross domestic product, which is a bunch of money. And yet, in the industry, in an industry that's fighting corrosion all the time, you'll find people that really don't know much about it. And they're spending money on cathodic protection and they don't really know what they're doing with it.
Do you think that's because, kind of like you said with pipeline integrity, like corrosion just wasn't that hot button topic back, 30, 40 years ago? Do you think that's why? Because it really wasn't part of, I mean, comparable to what it's like now, right? Like with corrosion's like at the forefront of a lot of things that we're doing. I know a lot of more emphasis has been put on it from a safety perspective and things like that. Why do you think it doesn't get as much attention as it should or hasn't?
I don't know. And here's one of the things that really hung me up about this. I took quite a few NACE courses when I worked for Baltimore Gas and Electric. And I always enjoyed taking the course and learning what they were instructing. When I went to work for a corrosion company or a corrosion control company, and I'm not saying who said what or anything like that. When I went to work for a corrosion control company, it seemed like very few people realized, and I mean, this is weird, very few people realized that oxygen doesn't cause corrosion. And this was like an epiphany to most people. Right. I can understand with a lot of the clients, but people I would have expected to know that didn't. And it continues to blow me away. We had customers, we had clients that said, "Oh yeah, we're going to temporarily abandon the pipe by filling with nitrogen." And I said, "Why nitrogen? Why go to the trouble with nitrogen?" "Oh, it's because it's got no oxygen in it and it won't corrode."
Come on. Really?
That's it. And I'd say, hey, when they store airplanes, they don't store them in Louisiana. They store them in Arizona for a reason. And it's not because Arizona has less oxygen in the air. It's because there's less moisture in the air. That's why they put it there. But
that's fine.
That is an awesome analogy right there to be able to explain it for some rudimentary, simplistic person like myself. You made it very easy for me to put the picture in my head. So thank you.
All you need is an air dryer.
And he's learning.
Hair dryer.
All you need is a hair dryer.
Air dryer.
Oh, I thought you said hair dryer. The amazing guys out in the ditch.
100 foot of Supreme Court.
So Rick, I know, and this would probably be the last topic, but I know one of your favorite things is kind of debunking some stuff about the natural gas industry and about some chemicals and things like that. And when we were talking the other day, you told a really funny story about one of your tenants now in your life now of being a landlord. Essentially, you told about having to clean out one of your pipes, and it took us down a rabbit hole, which we seem to do with you, which is a lot of fun. But I want you to just tell that story again, just because I think it's pretty interesting in your perspective on it.
Oh, okay. I know where you're going with that.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I enjoyed it.
A tenant of mine had somehow gotten a surgical recovery pad down in the drain.
Diaper. So diaper, essentially.
A diaper of sorts.
Diaper-like.
Down in the drain. And where we went with the story was that we hear a lot today, and not so much today anymore with the shale slowing down, but a few years back about how harmful fracking was, how dangerous fracking chemicals were. And what we were talking about was the chemicals in frack fluid. Let me talk, just give you a little background.
Sit
Let me just
down.
give you a background on
Yeah, I
fracking.
like this. This is what I was looking for. Stretch,
All
you
right.
gotta stretch.
Fracturing. On the Gulf Coast of Texas, the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, they don't fracture much, but they still do fracture because oil flows or gas flows out of permeable rock, not porous rock, permeable rock. Most rocks are porous. Sandstones, limestones are permeable, and they make good oil and gas reservoirs. The permeability allows the gas to flow through it, or allows the oil to flow through it with very little pressure drop. Shale, on the other hand, has a lot of porosity, but very low permeability. Gas doesn't want to flow through it. That's why shale is necessary trapping structure for conventional oil reservoirs or conventional gas reservoirs. It forms the trapping thing. It forms a trapping roof or ceiling to stop the gas and oil from migrating to the surface. It traps it. It can't move through the shale.
So essentially it makes a little cavern down there
It
of
don't.
storage. Really.
Not a cavern. It's not a cavern. It is permeable rock, like sandstone you find laying around.
That's pretty
That's
wild.
what oil reservoirs are: sandstone and limestone. There's not caverns down there. It's pore spaces in the rock.
You just blew every childhood thought I had. Yes.
So
Glad we're all learning something today.
if I want to increase the flow rate, out of a reservoir, I can do that by fracturing the reservoir and putting in an even more permeable, call it a super highway, into the wellbore. So if I'm fracturing a sandstone in South Texas, which I have, I put in, first I gel the water up with guar or acacia gum, usually guar.
Guar, wasn't that a band? It was.
I don't know.
Heavy metal.
Don't throw him off right now.
So guar adds gum to the water, makes it more viscous. And to fracture anything, to break anything apart, you got to put fluid against it faster than the fluid can leak into the reservoir.
Yeah.
Think about that. I've got to put in fluid so fast that I've got to put it in faster than the fluid can leak.
You almost
into
have to
that
backflow it, right? I mean, essentially, you're almost trying to backflow into there.
That's right. I'm trying to push fluid in faster than the reservoir can absorb it. So
Okay.
once that happens, that fluid is fairly incompressible, so it can't go anywhere. And when it can't go anywhere and it can't leak in fast enough, it opens a fracture in the rock. It builds up down there by fracturing itself open. Once the fracture starts to open, and you can see that on surface pressures, the fracture is starting to open up and propagate into the rock, then you start adding proppant. You start adding nice Ottawa sand.
Yep.
That is going to.
Am I wrong? That only comes from one or two places in the entire world. The sand.
But it's just nice round sand. It's Ottawa sand, or they use bauxite, which is aluminum ore, if they're afraid of it having too high a compressive strength. But usually it's Ottawa sand. So they start loading in sand into the fracture so that when they take the pressure off the fracture, the sand props it open. It can't close back in on itself. So the sand keeps the fracture held open. Then there are hundreds of feet long faces of the reservoir up against a nice sand superhighway back into the wellbore, and you have all that surface area open to flow now.
And that's why the sand has to be around, correct?
That's
So
why
it can
the
flow
sand
around
goes
it.
in.
If it was angular, it would pack too tight.
So the frackers, the Halliburtons of the world, they use guar to gel up the water, and then they add, and guar is something we find in salad dressings and chocolate syrup,
That's
in
yeah.
all sorts of food. The second thing they add, which is really added to carry the sand nicely, because sand is heavy, once it's settled out in the wellbore. So you've got to have that sand suspended on its way down the wellbore and into the fracture. So they add, 30 years ago, the chemical was hydroxyethyl cellulose. And that forms a big long molecule. And then they put in a chemical called a cross-linker, which cross-links all those molecules together. So you have one giant molecule of hydroxyethyl cellulose in water that can hold a whole bunch of sand in solution. It can suspend sand in the stream without the sand trying to settle out. Then they add friction reducers, and with cross-linkers, they add cross-link breakers, which are time delayed. They don't want to keep that cross-linking forever. After a couple hours, they want that cross-link to break. So they add another chemical. They have another chemical in the stream that'll break the cross-link. And once they take the pressure off the fracture closes on the sand, it stays propped open, the cross-linkers break down, the water's pumped out, and now you have a much more net permeable wellbore
That's
to take
interesting.
things out of.
That's really cool.
Wow, that's really neat.
In the Marcellus Shale is quote unquote easier to frack because the frac fluid doesn't want to leak off as quickly because it's non-permeable. It's very low permeability shale, so you don't need all that viscosity to get that fracture going. You need some of the viscosity to suspend the sand going down. But so you do some cross-link gels in there, but it's not like as much cross-linking as you need for the South Texas. Nice.
I always wonder, like, in many aspects of life, but who comes up with this stuff? Like,
Yeah, somebody's like, hey, let's all mix all this stuff together. It'd be great.
like, I don't even know how that would. You could
Rick.
take a million years, and I would never ever think of how to do that. Like,
I agree. And I watched. I'm a big fan of the movie Ford versus Ferrari. And I think
It's a good movie, Joe. Watch it.
how does that guy start a race car business? How do you do that?
I don't know.
Or the
He's like, I
Ferrari
gotta
plant.
start a race car business. Huh?
I don't know. I guess
I don't know.
that's where
I'm still kind of like spaced out from the story and it started with the diaper, and I see how the two worlds mix together now, and I'm in awe. So
Well, it's amazing how the things that they say are hazardous to us because they're using it in fracking are the same things that have been used for 30 to 40 years to feed us is the point. Which
that's
is
what I'm
kind
saying.
of,
I know.
and to keep your baby's butt dry.
Yeah,
Hydroxyethyl cellulose in the diapers.
in the diaper.
crazy.
this is where the diaper thing came from, right?
Yep.
That's right. We didn't close that
That's
list.
okay.
One
That's
big
okay.
circle.
It came all the way around.
Back. Hey, listen, I know that we could probably talk to you for the next 7 hours. And I think it's
I'm
funny
just
to
glad
talk.
we're recording it.
I just think it's funny to talk with you because this is I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's very few times we're all like silent, but that's especially me, but like we're all just silent. And we were this time, like we were all like, tell us more.
Yeah,
Tell us
keep going.
more. I want to hear more about this. I want to say thank you for coming on the show, first and foremost, but also, you were a huge help to us during the expo that we did, the Corrosion Expo. And I know that you're retired now, and I know that you have grandchildren and other responsibilities. You certainly didn't have to do that, but the fact that you continue to donate your time to the industry and to, talking to people that are young like us and just educating people, I think is just a testament to who
You just call him old?
No.
Yeah.
I think he calls you old.
When I stopped working, when I stopped working, I know you guys are in a time crunch here, but when I stopped working, I wake up early and I'd lay in bed thinking, I have a lot more to offer, but I really don't want to go back to work.
Well,
There's so much more to offer. I just don't want to do anything.
I don't want to do it. I want to offer it.
But helping out with your expo and doing this sort of thing helps fulfill a lot of that need.
That's good.
Once-
Glad we can do that for you too.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. And I don't
awesome.
want, there's a lot of knowledge in that noggin, and I think that there's a lot of good stuff that we'll probably be doing going forward that we'd love to have you be a part
Like
of.
Rick's Corner. We'll have Rick's Corner. 5-minute knowledgeable every week. We'll have to
5.
chase him down. 52, I meant. Sorry.
I don't know if you've seen, Rick, we're doing some LinkedIn live stuff, which is just educational things and doing some live programs. We just started that. We're going to be doing them every 2 weeks. I think that you definitely have a home there if you'd like to come on
Love that. Yeah.
and teach or
Okay.
talk a little bit about some educational things or the things just like we just did. I think is really beneficial for people. So maybe we can talk after this, and if you would like to be a part of that, we would certainly love to have you. It would be
I would enjoy that.
I learned more than I ever thought I could, Rick. I appreciate it.
Because he won't retain it.
Well, I didn't say I was going to remember it. I said I learned it.
I was ready with one last thing. We're talking about the energy industry, and this won't take long. There's a book that was written by a guy named Daniel Yeltsin called The Prize, and I've attempted to read it several times, and I've never gotten past the Middle East. I'm cool when they're talking about the energy industry in the United States. When I get to the Middle East, I kind of lose interest. But they tell a little story in there, but they give some data.
Our glasses are going on. Here we go.
I wrote down the numbers. I wanted to be right. There was a big oil boom in Western Pennsylvania. It's where oil was first drilled for. Big oil boom, and somebody owed a $5 farm. A farm was purchased for $5. All right, in the 1860s, okay, that'd buy you a couple acres. Oil came in a little town called Pit Hole City. Used to be the third largest town in Pennsylvania. Now it's
Did you
ruined.
say Pit Hole City?
Pit Hole, yes.
I just wanted to clarify the name.
Pit Hole.
I've never been.
No one has to.
That farm in Pit Hole City in July 1865 sold for $1.3 million.
Wow.
1860. In September of that same year, it sold for $2 million. Okay. Then the wells gave up, and we can save this for another time. The wells all gave up, petered out very quickly. And 13 years later, in 1878, the farm sold for $4.37.
Wow.
So we talk about
That's
rising
like
energy
Texas
prices.
the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about rising energy prices, and this is unprecedented. No, it's not. This sort of speculation has been going on
That's
ever
interesting.
since
I
energy
never,
began.
everything's
No,
cyclical though.
that's such a sweet gas fact he just gave you to like a nugget you can just like grow and
You can't talk about it.
no, but I'm saying like that kind of like thing right there you can now take, and it's like a seed. You can go down the wormhole and find a bunch more
You
stuff
knew
like
that, but now you've just said that to everybody. You're like you just told me my Christmas present.
I suck at
He
surprises.
stole your segment. It's now Rick's gas. It's now Rick's weekly gas.
back. There you go.
I'll change the picture. I'll change the picture, Rick.
Thank you for me personally. I literally I
thank
said it. I think my mouth was unhinged. I'm like learning as it came in. So thank you, really. I genuinely appreciate it. And Chad, thanks for setting this one up, man. You guys
Absolutely.
hold this together. That's an awesome relationship. You got to know him for a long time.
So Rick, we'll keep you in touch. We'll keep in touch with you. And for everybody that's watching, look out for Mr. Rick doing some LinkedIn live stuff with us here soon.
All
Thank
right.
you, Rick. Seriously.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Rick, thank you for joining us. I can honestly say that was the single most educational interview we've ever done. And I truly appreciate it as I try to learn knowledge every day, but that was really easy.
A couple things that threw me off. If that lady keeps talking to me every time you hit record, she's going to be part of
Yeah, for those
connections for life.
For those of you that don't know, now when you click Zoom, it says this meeting is being recorded, and it's just in your head. Like it's really bizarre.
It's
anyway.
it's like an auto-tuned Surrey.
Yeah, right, exactly. So anyways, yeah, I spent 30 minutes being utterly confused because I'm not as smart as Rick. So that was pretty, it took me a while to catch up. It was like watching a movie and I was 5 minutes behind,
I can't wait to actually watch the interview because I know there was a ton of stuff he talked about that I couldn't even comprehend. There's times I'm pretty sure I'm like,
We're all
Yeah.
no, we're all there's like we always talk over each other. We always have something to say, and for the majority of that interview, all of us are sitting here like this.
Because we're dumb.
I don't know. I don't know if it's because we're dumb or
We're like a
so much
dog. When you,
information.
what?
You got a treat.
No, but Rick's awesome. I want to say thanks to not just coming on the show, but you know, he was a huge help when we did the expo. I don't know Rick as long as Chad has, but you know, it's definitely cool knowing Rick, all the stuff that he knows, and just he's just a wealth of information. I really want to find a way to get him on the show a little bit more often because I feel like he's just so smart.
Such little tidbits that are
Yeah.
things you never knew. Like what's crazy, and I know we talked a little bit about the diaper and the absorbent thing, but when Lindsay and I had our date day,
It's like
or she had it with her
43rd
boyfriend,
time
like
you
that's
brought that up.
Yeah. When you watch that
it's just
film.
amazing. Well, we went to this place and they had these. They look like paper coasters. They just look like a napkin, and you put your drink on it. Well, when she was pouring my soda into the cup, it overflowed, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna go everywhere." It literally poured over onto this thing and it just sopped it up. And what it was just a tiny little thin, almost like diaper. And I was like, "Oh, I know what that is now." I don't remember what it's called because it was a big word, but I know the concept. And that was amazing.
Drilling fluid. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, something of the sort. But I don't. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Over here.
It was awesome to learn something.
Over here.
Why don't we get Chris with TRC on?
Stop! Everybody makes a mistake sometimes. I'm gonna quit.
Yeah, it's just I have to capitalize on all of them.
I know
you do.
Right.
You never let anything go.
I don't
Can't.
know. It's
Never.
okay.
My kids are the same way. It's awful because they do it to me. Yeah.
You've created three little Joes.
Monsters. Yesterday I stopped over and Callie had a friend over and her friend wasn't paying attention to her and she goes, "If you don't come here, I'm gonna punch you in the face." And I was like, there she is.
That's my girl.
It's my kid.
That's my girl. My daughter.
Not that she really would, but
so my daughter didn't talk to me for the entire drive to school today because she lost her phone and it got ran.
I was just gonna say why, because you found her phone on Facebook.
Yes, that's why. I am now. She's like, it's not my fault, and I'm like, I know it's not mine.
all right, let's move on. We already passed that section.
You should let it go. You're gonna have to empty your cup.
Deviated.
I know.
Hey, I wanted to bring up something kind of cool because we've been talking about this colonial thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you guys have any idea how many millions of?
Is this a gas fact or is this?
No, it's not. It's not. It's just how many gallons of oil go through that pipeline a day?
3. 12.
3
A lot.
million gallons a day.
100 million gallons of oil a day.
A
goes through that
day?
pipeline. A day.
Come on.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It represents 45% of the fuel that's consumed on the East Coast. So that runs through that pipeline.
Wowza.
So with that said, though,
Yeah.
so doesn't that because we talked about like the efficiency improvements that have been made in this over time, how everything's, the consumption is still similar, but the efficiency.
But hang on, that's not natural gas. That's
I'm sorry.
That's fuel.
Yeah.
That
Oil.
Colonial only carries fuel
That's
product.
right. Excuse me.
This was another. So we talked about how much they paid was like, I think it ended up being like 4.4 million or something like that. 5 million.
It's a lot. Yeah, but it was nowhere near what you told me.
So I did a little bit of poking around, based on how much gets spent on people paying, like basically blackmail to pay
ransom money.
Ransom. So ransomware is kind of what it's called, right? The damages and payments that are they estimate for 2021 will be in excess of $20 billion paid.
Come on.
Ransomware attacks.
I want to get into being a hacker.
We're not smart enough.
Also true. They got to need muscle for something.
I don't think so, Dad.
I don't think I don't think that has anything to do with what they do. Their muscle is just getting into and shutting everything down.
But
like
somebody's got
girls in their kid's mom's basement. They need like pizza. Can you deliver pizza? That's probably
like my neighbor Eddie, who I don't see. He's over there.
Hey, don't talk. Hey, now your whole house is gonna get shut down. See,
there it goes.
Chad's gonna be black next week. You're not gonna be able to hear. It's just a black screen.
Nothing.
No, anyways, sorry, I deviated there. I know you guys had some other things about.
Well, staying in the pipeline world, so to speak. I read this article here.
35 seconds ago.
Yeah. It came in my email.
It's a lot of preparation though for Ted. In his defense, that is a lot of prep.
Yeah, in my defense, I read it this
All
morning.
right, let's go. Come on, this episode's gonna be 2.5 hours long.
It's fun, though.
It's fine.
Fun.
The Supreme Court is wrestling with New Jersey pipeline case, the Penny's pipeline. All right, and they're talking about imminent. Basically, this pipeline contractor is suing the state of New Jersey, asking them to impose eminent domain on a certain area where it was approved to go through. And now the state's saying no, and now it's at the Supreme Court level, and it's just interesting because Chad said, when we were discussing this in the pre-show here, that he was like, they've been talking about this for 5-6 years. You said, Chad?
No, longer than that. Eminent domain's been around forever.
No, I'm talking about the Penny's pipeline.
Oh, the Penny's pipeline's probably 7 or 8 years this has been going through. And I know it was approved 5 years ago, but obviously they hit a stop point here. And my assumption is that they hit somebody that didn't want to sell their land or give them the land or something.
The company ultimately took New Jersey to court to acquire state-controlled land for its project. All right. And then Penny says the commission's greenlighting of the project gave it the ability to take New Jersey to court and use the eminent domain to acquire state-controlled properties. So
after taking it from the state, that's fine.
It's probably like what do they call it?
There's probably some endangered wetland.
The Jersey Devil. They're taking out the Jersey Devil down there.
No, it's probably like a Guatemalan praying mantis. It's like
you're right. Sorry, can't have that. There's 3 left in the world.
I don't know if that's an actual thing, but
it isn't. Pretty sure it's not.
Anyway,
but okay, so that's what I had.
What else we got?
I like that, Teddy. Good one.
I brought something to the table for once, so
slow down. Joe, I think it's your turn.
Oh, that's all we have for. Yes, then we want to talk about NGA or whatever.
We can after you do your gas act. I just forced you into it.
All right. So, I'm gonna read this to you guys, and then you can fill in the blanks. All right.
Probably not.
Let's see if we get this right here. So, I actually posted this on LinkedIn this morning. I can't see. My computer is like my font's like so small.
It's going well for you.
Joe. I can't see, dude. I'm old.
That's how I feel, but it's just because I'm blind.
So the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, otherwise known as
the Regulatory Commission,
PHMSA.
Sorry, I couldn't get the acronym together fast enough.
Data shows that there's 3 million miles of underground pipelines, and they're the safest method of transporting energy. Compare that to 3.5 million miles of paved roads in the United States. PHMSA reports that the 10-year average for natural gas distribution systems led to 26 incidences and 8 fatalities per year, compared to over 6 million traffic and car accidents every year, resulting in 3 million people injured and 40,000 people killed on 3.5 million lines of roads. With that said, the National Transportation Safety Board says that pipeline accidents make up less than blank % of all transportation accidents in the U.S.
Oh, okay. When I answered on the thing, I probably the background to that was a little bit more, I think, because I already answered this online. I've seen the question.
What'd you pick?
I think 3%. But now that I realized that you were comparing it to cars, which I don't think the two have anything to do with each other, and I think PHMSA's
my question just said. The National Transportation Safety Board says that pipeline accidents make up less than blank % of all transportation accidents in the U.S.
I understand that, but I thought it would be more like
I don't care how you interpreted it.
My answer is less than 1%.
Oh, it's got to be much less than 1%.
0.01%.
Yeah, it had to be because I just didn't put in perspective. We were talking about like traffic accidents compared to pipeline accidents. Got to be.
Well, what would you be comparing it to then? Boats?
Well, really, what I thought it would be compared to vehicles carrying natural gas, not just a random car that got in an accident.
When you're talking like fatalities and. Well, when you're talking about fatalities, does it really matter? I mean,
yeah, it does, because they don't have anything to do with each other. Moving natural gas via pipeline has nothing to do with Jimmy, the 16-year-old who drove into a car.
That's they in your mind, but the National Transportation Safety Board is in control of anything transportation related.
Great. I think they should have a different
Anyways, because you got it wrong, now I'm arguing with you.
No, I don't.
No, that's literally you interpreted it wrong, so you're mad.
No, I'm not mad. I just don't.
All right,
understand
girls, back on track. All right, ladies.
No, I think it's important to discuss how does moving. If you took a 5-gallon jug of natural gas.
Let me give you an example. If you took away all the pipelines in the United States and you had to pipe it via road, it would be far more dangerous if you did it by rail and by road than in pipelines. I think that's what they're trying to.
I agree. I just
I
don't
do
think
too.
you should. I think that should be the comparison. If you put everything into a train, or you put, you
I'm
know what I
just
mean.
reading what the
know.
National Transportation Safety
I
Board put
I
out.
unfortunately agree with the government. Odd.
Just saying.
Disagree.
In Chad's
I
next
don't know.
career as a hacker, he's definitely gonna be like,
That's what I'm coming back as.
You
yeah,
can't even remember guys' names.
A ransomware.
ransomware. Yeah. What are you gonna be when you grow up? I'm gonna hijack people's security systems and make them pay me to get
Shut
them
down
back.
pipeline.
Anyways, I just wonder like if people really understand that. Like when they're shutting down pipelines
No,
and
you're
stuff and
right.
people are like cheering about it. I don't think, you know, the fuel has to go somewhere. We have to transport it somehow. So shutting down a pipeline based on, you know, a very few amount of incidences
I
versus,
agree.
you know, over rail or road or boat.
I mean, common sense says, Joe, would you rather have your natural gas or whatever buried in a protected pipeline, or literally carried as a liquid above grade in the back of a tanker? I mean, common sense is I don't really want to even stand next to that tanker. You know.
Well, I mean, would you want to have your natural gas like brought to your home in a truck, or would you want it piped in your house? You know what I mean? It's sustainable.
makes
It's
sense.
not
Yeah.
weather doesn't impact it. That, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously that's not
I
necessarily.
like that.
Anyways,
I like that.
that's
That's a good
it.
one, Joe.
That was a good
Yeah,
one.
well, I'll have to pick it up next week.
Chad, what do we have coming up? Weren't we talking about? We're gonna bring up a little NGA and what they have upcoming.
I don't know the exact dates of it.
We're prepared.
June 6th.
I didn't know I was going to be the guy that talked about it. I'm not part of NGA. Not my,
You
not
are-
my territory.
You are now.
Clearly, since Friday.
I just ripped my note.
What was it?
It's
It's
another
June,
all
what is it?
virtual event. It's all virtual, and I
Looks
believe,
like you got the info, Ted.
well, I believe it's taking place June 6th. But where are we at here? Training.
Where's the 6th? Is that a Tuesday?
June 21st, excuse me. June 8th through the 11th of 2021, virtually via Zoom. They've got several different tracks: safety, customer service, distribution, innovation and management, construction, gas supply, storage and transmission, and then system design.
What date is it? Because you said the 6th, then you said the 21st, and then you said the 8th through the 11th.
I was going to say that.
8th through the 11th.
You
Okay.
did say the 21st or 22nd.
I guessed 2 times, and I was wrong. And I was buying time to get.
You're running out of dates in June.
It's right
Eventually-
after our weekly gas fact.
Yeah. But it's we did it last year. Well, it was virtual last year as well. Gene Cody, our New England regional sales manager, will be representing, and there may
I
be
think
a
he's
special.
doing some McElroy stuff, right?
Yeah, he's going to do some McElroy. He's going to cover the product line. He's got an hour time slot and cover the products that Upsco is a distributor for or manufacturer of, and it's going to be a good one. You might see a special guest appearance from some people you all know. You might not, though. You have to tune in to find out.
It's
No, I'm confused. Who's the? Oh, I know what you're talking about. That was bad.
All right, I'm not good at. I don't ever claim to be good at this.
Fair point.
The Jets
Fair
hurting on
point.
that one.
fair point.
Fair point.
I don't ever claim to be good at this.
You can't. Yeah, you can't
gotta
really knock
go.
somebody. That
Can I go
I
now?
left 20 minutes ago. Since that lady said no recording. Or whatever.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. We'll be back at the same bat time, same bat channel next week. Remember to click like, subscribe, share, tweet, upload, download, all the things that apply.
And
Hey, are you still growing your hair out?
Yes.
Let me see
Can we
it.
see it?
No.
Come on. Come on. Oh, it's not
Oh, it
that
looks
bad.
good. It's
It
refined.
does. Yeah, it actually doesn't look too bad.
No bald spot still.
It's early. You're still young. You got a few more years before.
I'm
your
only
hair-
38. I just look 58. So
Wow.
You're like the kid who was it, Danny Almonte, that pitched for the Yankees or the for the Little League World
Little
Series.
League
He was
World
like
Series out of the
18
Bronx.
and he was claiming to be 13. That's you.
yeah, he was throwing gas too. And there he
Good
is.
Chad. You
Lex,
look like somebody I know.
Sean
Lex Luthor.
No. Sean who?
Bauer.
No.
Dave Kepsel.
Dave Kepsel. Yes.
Cubs.
All right, we should leave.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week. We love you.
No one's watching this.